But there was a time in my previous club when I was playing for SuperSport United. I had like 6 months left on my contract, and that season I wasn't playing. And then I had a knee injury, which I think took me out for 3.5 months.
Oh.
So I had to really just dig deep because I was uncertain of my future. And I think my boy was a few months old at that time, and everyone was looking at me to obviously provide, and that was the most challenging time in my career. But I think it taught me a lot about having character and sticking things through. I worked hard to obviously recover from my injury. Unfortunately enough, after I recovered, I played again, and I think my next game was the final when we beat Pirates in Durban at the Nedbank Cup final. And after that game, I got a contract extension. But that period, 6 months before, there was a lot of uncertainty, a lot of doubt, and I wasn't so sure as to where my career was going, and that was really just a dark time in my life because I also just had a kid, and I'm trying to provide for this kid, so that for me was the most challenging time.
Gosh, and there's
in my
nothing
career.
more stressful, is there, when suddenly children enter your lives
There's nappies, there's all these things.
and you suddenly realize it's just you, really. I mean, well, a lot of it is you, and you are the one that's got to make this life a good one.
Yeah, so I took that upon myself. I looked at it from a positive point of view, to say, you know what, my first thing is to overcome this injury, because I'm still getting income. I'm still contracted, and recover as quick as I can so that, I can prove my worth and my value, and earn another contract, And I think he was my biggest motivation because I didn't want to let him down, Bringing him into the world and making him struggle wasn't something I wanted for him, And yeah, I think that just pushed me to be where I am today.
Did you ever think this could be the end? This is it. I'm going to have to think of something else.
No, definitely. I used to have chats with my mom, like, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not playing. Sometimes you even say to yourself, maybe the coach at the time doesn't like you. You have all these doubts, all these thoughts, but even my mom just taught me to be resilient, and to not give up. Something will give, and it eventually did give.
I'm talking to Grant Kekana, a very well-known soccer player, plays for Bafana Bafana, and we're going to go through all your different iterations, including the people that have led you on your way. You talk a lot about your mum. You've mentioned her now, and I've seen in your social media posts that she's somebody important in your life. Tell us about that relationship and how she sees your good and your bad moments.
I think we have it's sort of like a brother-sister relationship. We fight all the time. But
What do you fight about?
Everything. Sometimes I never used to make my bed, like doing my bed, so she'd shout at me about that, or having my room untidy, not cleaning, not washing my car, things like that, but she's always been the person to make me accountable, but she's been my rock. She's been the one who supported me from the get-go. Bought me my first pair of soccer boots.
Really? At what age?
I think I was 9, grade 3. Yeah, 2001. She actually bought me the wrong soccer boots. But I was grateful that, I did get
Why
soccer
were they
boots.
the wrong ones?
At the time, there were these Argentinas that I liked. And then she came back with the Jomosonos. And I said,
Mom, this is not cool.
This is not the one. Because I was telling all my friends, yeah, this week I'm getting these boots, what. And then the next day I come with the wrong boots, but I was just grateful that, she's been there from the start of this journey. She's still there. I'm very privileged that she's still there in my journey. And she's someone that I rate highly because she's in politics, obviously, and the dynamics of politics, and I've seen her struggles in politics, and I think that's also given me strength when I've had my challenges, because I'm like, if she's had so many challenges in the political space, whenever I encounter challenges, I can learn from her because she's managed to overcome them.
What have you seen in her failures in the political spectrum? And often these can be fabricated failures or imposed by somebody else, because we know that that space is a pretty competitive space. What have you seen her do in her failures that have helped you possibly in yours?
I think the biggest one was when they were still in Limpopo before they came to national, and then they took them out of government and they were sort of like outcasted and whatever. And then you get to see that, someone who was high up there, to be brought back down to earth, everyone, she had to redo or like rehab her relationships with other people, start from scratch type of thing, and at that time she was so used to being the main person, to suddenly being a nobody, and she gradually worked her way up again. But she had my support at that time because I was a son. I was the one who she came to hug and say, I'm going through this. I couldn't do anything, but I was just there.
Just to be there.
So even in my space, when I go through challenges, I can talk to her. I know she can't change anything, but she's there,
How important is it to have that kind of
presence.
North Star person, that person that you can just offload and reveal your insecurities to?
I think it's very crucial, because sometimes we die inside, not being able to know who we can talk to. And for me to have somebody who I can vent to, whatever. Sometimes she thinks maybe I'm crazy or I'm over exaggerating things, but she's there to listen. And that's sometimes what's important, somebody to listen. Sometimes we don't want answers, we don't want explanations, we just want somebody who can listen. And then I know that she knows when I've come down, she'll tell me, what, as much as you say this, I don't think that was the right approach. So she's also got timing as to when she'll give me an answer to something, or if she agrees with my complaints to her.
I mean, it's interesting when you hear this, because, you hear about your mum, Pinky, and the sort of role that she's played, and then you don't often hear that or see that personal side to somebody, particularly when they're in politics.
Yeah.
What sort of relationship do you have with your dad?
It's a bit of we have a relationship. It's a bit of a strange one, though, but the relationship is there. He just wasn't there for the large part of my life. And I think, as growing up, I think you need both parents, but my mom has been my mom and dad for the longest time, but I'm honored to still, or privileged to still have a dad, and for me, I'd rather have a relationship than to regret one day when he's not around to say, I could have done this, I could have. So even last week we had a conversation. I think I'm seeing him on Sunday, and we're just talking. Obviously, you can't make up the time that's lost, but you can appreciate his presence while he's still around.